Maybe we just need to find more spicy music,
Yeah.
like elevator music or mariachi,
Yeah, mariachi. Maybe the sound of smoking orphan meat.
Yes.
Welcome back, Husker fans, to another episode of Generation Red, the kettle corn of Husker fan podcasts, where we try to be sweet, but at times we get salty. I am your host, Ken.
And I am your host, Scott.
It's good to see y'all. Thanks for popping in tonight. I have a feeling, yes, that is. It is Moonbot. Bot is in the house. Welcome aboard. Good to see you, Bot. It looks like he's the only one in the house, and that's a good thing. That's all right. We're just here to talk about Ohio State, talk about the fact that, like the guys at No Block, No Rock, I don't know if you caught their Cornhusker counseling episode, which was excellent, by the way. But they said the opposites the last 2 weeks have been inverse of what we thought they were going to be. We didn't think we were going to get boat raced by Indiana, but we did get. And then we thought we'd get boat raced by Ohio State, but we didn't get. So it's just kind of a weird gamut of emotions that Husker fans have had to deal with the last couple of weeks. But I think Coach Rhule said it best when he said he was proud. He was proud of the way the kids played, not satisfied, obviously, but he's proud of the effort that they gave. And I mean, for me, that's the overall thing I came away with, was I was proud of my program. I didn't feel like we got our heads kicked in and got embarrassed at all. In fact, I think some Ohio State fans were rather embarrassed by the way their team played. So,
yeah. Okay, sorry. I adjusted my microphone, and now
no,
I was like, "Whoa!" I didn't hear. I thought it was too loud. I've moved my microphone, folks. I moved it from the overhang, which was driving me nuts, and I moved it closer to my face. And I just need to do a little adjustment here. I thought it was a little bit too sensitive. So, yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think we definitely overperformed, or we performed well. And yes, Ohio State, in fact, did. I don't want to say they overlooked us, but we didn't get their best game, I don't think.
It's a very good chance that they had the old bye-week blues.
Yeah.
And still stewing over what happened up in Oregon and feeling victimized and whatnot by the refs up there. Welcome to our world. Which we'll get into here in a little bit. But first of all, I just want to get a couple of things out of the way. Number one, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at GenRedPod, or subscribe to Generation Red on your favorite podcast app to listen to the audio version of this show, which will drop tomorrow morning. Please like and subscribe and join the conversation by interacting with us in the live chat tonight, or leaving a comment down below this video when it goes on demand later tonight. We'd appreciate any kind of interaction we could get. Leave us your thoughts, concerns going into next week, and anything you have, any ideas you have about UCLA. We'd be welcome all of those. GenRedPod.com is our website. Email is genredpod@gmail.com. And one of the coolest things I get to announce tonight, before we actually get rolling, is the fact that on genredpod.com very, very soon, there will be a link to some brand new, hot off the presses Generation Red merchandise store is now live. So if you want to get a hold of some Generation Red stuff, we'd appreciate it. It'd be really cool. The nice thing is that the show would benefit. It does benefit the show. So it's part of one of those things of being part of Hurrdat Media. They provide a store for us, and we get a little cut of it. So that's the link right there, shop.hurrdatmedia.com/collections/generation-red, or right down in the description of this video, you'll find that link as well toward the bottom of the show notes, as well as in the audio version of this show. If you're listening to this podcast later down the line, you'll be able to click on the link in the show notes and go right to that website and order whatever you wish. We've got mugs, we've got dad hats, we've got beanies, or at least winter hats, sweatshirts, hoodies, t-shirts in different colors and different logos, 2 different logos. One that's at the top of the page will be similar to some of the merch that we have, and plus our regular standard Generation Red logo that we started out with. So go there, check that stuff out. It's pretty cool. We're certainly going to order some. I cannot wait. It's going to be fun. Poor UCLA is going to get flagged a lot this week on deep balls. Sat probably won't call any, though. Well said, Moonbot. Well said. Take it easy on Sat tonight. Whoops. Oh, thank you. I wasn't planning to click that link. Take it easy on Sat tonight. We were the only a few more swings or screens away from winning. If only we had called more. Yeah, he said that on 1620 The Zone Monday morning. He sent me the video link, and that was pretty dang funny. He kind of got Gary a little bit and got his panties all in a flutter a little. So that's pretty funny. Yeah, I think he's right. Just one more, or if maybe Dylan audibled into one more, because there's a couple of things out there circulating that a few of those weren't called by SAT, but that's something that Dylan checked into. So could have, might not have. Sounds like a whole lot of people are trying to explain it away based on their own biases. All that fun stuff. So merch, yeah, make sure you go check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun when you can get a hold of that. And we really appreciate the support. So let's just go ahead and jump into the review. I do have Coach Rhule's. It's like 3 minutes, 45 seconds long. I do have Coach Rhule's press conference opening comments from Saturday. Thought I'd play those here real quick for all of us to watch and just see if maybe that flavors our conversation. I haven't watched the whole thing yet. I basically just listened to it while it was recording, so I haven't really paid much attention to it. So this will be kind of new to me as well.
The hardest part of what we did when we went to Temple and what we did when we went to Baylor was getting guys not to say, oh, here we go again, and getting guys not to expect to lose. Getting everyone, including the people around the program, not to focus on always on what's wrong, but what's right, right? And that's hard, right? You're constantly talking to your staff, your coaches, your players. Last week was a low for us since we've been here. Because the minute the game got hard, we kind of looked around like, oh no, what's happening to us? Kind of victims, like, yeah, this is happening to us. And this was a hard week. This was a hard week. But a week that I knew, because of my experiences, we would turn into something good. We would teach. The players would see us, instead of us being defensive as things are said, they would see us stand like men. You know, anyone can just be defensive. Like, just stand like men in front of them, not blame the players, but work hand in hand with them. And we expected to come here and win the football game. We expected to win. And so I say this, to me, it's so hard because you don't want it to sound like a moral victory because we lost. And we're not here to lose. We're the University of Nebraska. We're not here to lose. But in terms of the development and growth of what you're trying to build, because while the world and everyone wants things to happen quickly, if you want it to be sustainable, if you want it to last forever, you have to do it the right way. I get asked a lot of questions about, why aren't we doing it this way, that way? We're trying to build something sustainable. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Who knows? A lot of you guys have seen a lot of guys come here try to do it and it hasn't worked. So I'm trying it a different way. I was proud of that football team today. I was proud. They didn't back down. They had some really tough breaks. They had some things really go against them, even the way we started. And they competed. It was the first time. It's the first time. It's the first time since I've been here that I felt a championship mindset in the locker room. Along with the championship mindset, as those who compete know, comes utter disappointment when you lose. So that part's hard. It's hard for the guys. But I saw a group of guys, even at the very end, take the field, going out there to make one more play, have a chance to compete against one of the best teams in the country. So I thought they grew up. I challenged them. It better look this way next week. Some of the football still's tough. It's hard. You're literally, you can have some of our administrators that hear me on the field. I'm still, you got some young guys out there. You're still coaching things out there in the middle of the game that in a year or two you hope that it's second nature. It's just what it is. But for those of us who believe in the long way, the hard way, for those of us who haven't had things handed to us, for those of us who believe in building, for those people who believe in putting in an honest day's work, like I hope while they're disappointed, they're proud of what they saw, of what they competed. And while I yelled at the officials sometimes and all that, our players didn't let it bother them. Our players just continued to compete. Thought we played with class and dignity. We had a chance to win. So I know that's long. I know it's hard. I don't say that to justify what we're doing. I'm saying that so our players will understand why I'm so proud. Not satisfied. That's very, very, very important. There are no moral victories, but proud. But proud.
You are muted there, boss man.
And I'm still muted. There's an interesting feature. I forgot that I had kind of pre-selected a brand setup because they've changed everything on StreamYard. And if you don't make sure you put it back to the right one you want to use beforehand, it'll always default to the one that you've set up in the preview. So I've got to fix that again. So we don't have to worry about that. But anyway, thanks for hanging out for that. I don't know, off the top of your head, were there any comments in there that kind of stuck out to you?
Not particularly. It's kind of, I hate to say this, but I'm just kind of at this point now where, like, Rhule's he's a great speaker. He's good at saying the right things. I just really want to see things happen.
See the proof in the pudding. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm going to, I won't be able to make that tried and true judgment call until probably mid-season next year, because at the end, like, this season is just going to be what it is. I'll change my mind if things change suddenly, but at this point, I'm pretty much bought into the idea that this is just the team that we have. They still kind of have a hard time putting games in the bag.
Yeah.
But if all things do end up as they are supposed to, according to the word of our head coach, things are going in the right direction. I have to remember, as for me personally, I have to constantly remind myself that this year is better than last year. As frustrated as I get sometimes with the results on the field, we are a better team than we were last year. We fixed a few of the things that killed us last year. The Indiana game is going to sting. That's going to be one of those games that we're able to look back at the end of the season and be like, man,
why did that happen? Yeah.
How in the world did that happen? But listening to him speak, he's clearly a motivator. He's clearly the kind of guy who can sit down and instill good values and a good philosophy in his guys' lives. So even if it doesn't necessarily result on the field right now, I think he is proving himself to be a figure that they can look up to. And so that is going to translate into a more sustainable culture, I think. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I don't know how the locker room looks. I don't know what it's like walking into his office to ask him questions. Like, I don't know those things.
Right.
But we'll see, this is one of those games that was tough. It was very reminiscent of things that we've seen before in the past. I do think that he is right. I don't think our guys gave up, though. I think that they really, really wanted to win that game, and they felt their demeanor just seemed like they're going to go and they're going to win this game. And it just didn't work out that way. So yeah, his comments, great rhetoric. I love the rhetoric. I'm just waiting for some things to change. I think that things need to change. There are some aspects of this program that need to change. And I'm sure everybody would agree with me. So
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Coach puts it very, very well that this is a cop-out answer, but I truly don't think I'll know how I feel about the Ohio State game until after the UCLA game. I know that may be weird, but I need to see how we progress again. You're correct, Coach. I completely agree with you because nobody saw Indiana coming, and in the inverse, we didn't think the team would respond. If the past is any indicator of what we saw over the years with Frost, over the years, especially with Riley, once you got your ass beat once in 2017, you got your ass beat a lot, and these kids quit. One thing you've seen with Rhule teams, they don't quit. The only time I've actually seen them quit in the entire time he's been here was what appeared to me quitting about midway through the third quarter last week against Indiana. And I think that was just an old mentality that had to be flushed. And maybe the Indiana tail kicking is what needed to happen to flush that mentality. I don't know. And I agree with Moonbot as well. This team has the Rocky mentality, but we need the Mike Tyson mentality. Yes, completely agree, Moonbot. Completely agree. But before we really drop too much into what happened in the game itself between the two teams, I threw up some slides that have some tweets that I grabbed some screenshots of related to the officiating. First and foremost, to set the stage so that we understand what the context is that we're coming from, and the fact that it seems that the Big Ten officiating has unfairly called games in which Nebraska has participated in the Big Ten. These are road games. Since joining the Big Ten, there have been 6 holding penalties called on the home team when Nebraska has played on the road. 6. Some games, I'm pretty sure there was 6 holding calls called on Nebraska's offense. Granted, I know we haven't been good, but that seems to be a little disparity there. So with that as kind of the context, you had this one. We remember this one, where he got the first down right there at the end of the half, and the explanation was given on this. So who exactly did the line judge think was the ball carrier? Well, they didn't know. The official got confused about who had the ball. And Bruntz, in his perfectly sarcastic way, college football should consider having players wear numbers to hopefully keep that from happening. I love Michael Bruntz. He makes me laugh so hard. And then Wyatt Mazur, former player, of course. You would think, oh, it's another player from Nebraska complaining. I'm trying to figure out how it is so common for the Big Ten to officiate Nebraska games in favor of the opponent. Well, he's not the only one that said something to that effect. There was, believe it or not, a Trojan fan said this game is completely rigged. Unbelievable. Big Ten is doing everything they can to keep Nebraska out of it. Calls are only going one way. To be fair, they did have 3 penalties, and we only actually had 7, which kind of surprised me when I looked at the totals. I thought there were a lot more flags than that. So it wasn't, it was lopsided over 2-1, but still it wasn't as many flags. They were just way more consequential. And then the last part on this particular, David Pollock from ESPN Game Day, is that the worst spot in the history of football. Husker football got the first down by at least a yard. I say 2. So what the heck is going on? So when the national media is grabbing it and wondering what's going on, you kind of have to wonder if it's a situation where the referees were like, you can hear that deep, slow, raspy voice whispering to himself in the mirror, just get in there. Make it about you. That whole not PBR, but PBS radio, public service radio voice, where they're highly compressed. And so, but that's what I had for referees. Because, every podcast I've listened to since Saturday, they've gone 20, 30 minutes on the refs. I don't really want to. I just thought I'd kind of throw some tongue-in-cheek stuff out there and just say it was hideous. It was awful. There's no other way to put it. And to throw a little fuel on the fire, I don't know if you've seen the news. Of course, the Big Ten has now acknowledged that placement on that first down run by Emmett Johnson was a mistake. They screwed it up. They didn't get the call right. But then the Big Ten also came back later that day, and they also said that the targeting call was overturned on the Ohio State player, so he gets to play the whole game against Penn State next week, the starting linebacker. So, it's like, shocker. Oh, yeah, we acknowledge that happened, but man, we're going to fix this. We got to fix this egregious error, which is this targeting call that happened because the preferred program was victimized by horrible officiating. But Nebraska, oh, yeah, well, we acknowledge we screwed that up. Well, cool. You just took 30 seconds off the clock at the end of the first half. Nebraska would have a first down and at least 2 shots in that 30 seconds or so to at least take a couple shots down the field toward the end zone. But they didn't get that opportunity because not even the replay booth, the multi-billion-dollar replay booth in New York said, nah, we're not going to bother.
It's like, how do you have over $100,000 in screens in your little HQ And there's not one single swinging PP in that room that's like, hey, guys, I really am starting to think that this offensive lineman number right here isn't the one carrying the ball.
Yeah.
It just seems strange. But yeah, I don't really want to talk too much about the refs, but I will say one thing, and I know that this is a commonly said thing, but I just like to think about it like this. Good teams win games in spite of the refs.
Yes, they do.
And I like to think about it like any other hero story that we ever hear in our lives. Like, there isn't some perfect world where we find a hero myth, a hero story where all of the rules are being followed. Like,
clear, yeah.
No,
that's utopia, and it doesn't exist. Yeah.
And a good hero story is one that they get the kidney blow. They get the blow to the nuts. They get absolutely blindside punched, and they get their entire world is thrown into a frizz because somebody isn't playing by the rules. And a great person, a great team, a great effort is one that can overcome those obstacles. And so what I want to see from this team is, yes, the Big Ten has clearly, over the course of, a decade plus of being in the Big Ten, it has had it out for Nebraska. I don't think there's any arguing that. And the Big Ten refs are just reffing across the nation has just gotten perceptually worse. Like, there's no way to look like there's just so much bad reffing, and it's got to be fixed. And that's like a double entendre. But just get over it. Do something about it.
Do something
about it. Be a better football team.
Yep.
Do more things. Make the refs have to try so hard that you can literally sue them, because every single play that you have is so successful that they have no choice but to just let it go. That they can't throw their flag. And so, like, at this point, like, yeah, the refs suck. It's fine. Whatever. Like, I'm not even going to get upset about it anymore. I just want to see our team overcome it. They got to figure out a way to overcome it. They can only throw so many flags, knock on wood, but they can only throw so many before things just start to look egregiously stupid. So you just got to be better.
Coach says, if I was on Nebraska staff, I'd have had to been bailed out of Columbus jail. And then Moonbot chimes in with Bret Hart style and a big old snot ball to the face. I don't know if you remember that, what the context of that is, but he got
I don't
screwed out of the WWE title by Vince McMahon way back in the day, like early 90s, somewhere in there, and he turned around, and it wasn't supposed to go down like that, and he turned around and he spit a big old loogie right in Vince McMahon's face. So yeah, oh, that's funny. Thanks, Moonbot, for the 90s reference and making me feel every bit as old as I feel. I really appreciate it. So there we go. We are on to our offensive reaction from Saturday, and I'll just start off by just saying that Dylan Raiola can run. There's some tweets that came out today that set up a crap storm of activity amongst fans who are definitely not the biggest fans of Marcus Satterfield, because he was asked about it in the press conference. And in essence, he said he thought, oh, wow, he can run, he can scramble. That's cool. I really didn't know he could do that. And of course, Satterfield, having all of the personality of a freeze-dried potato, was being sarcastic. And nobody picked up on it, especially on Twitter. They're like, oh, my God, what kind of idiot doesn't know his quarterback can actually run? I'm like, come on, people. I know we don't like him. I get it. But he totally trolled you from a freaking press conference dais, and you don't even see it. So, and then the other thought that hit my mind was the Huskers were only 2 overthrown passes away from winning by possibly 10 points. If the defense would have held the way they did the rest of the game. And then 10 screen, I think it was actually 8 screen or swing passes, and only 2 of them were actually successful. When it was all said and done, I think they gained a total of 7 yards on 8 of those screen passes. So those were the 3 things that stuck out to me. How about you?
Yeah, my number one point is that the offense still looks pretty disjointed and chaotic. There's really not anything up to 8 games into the season so far that I go, this is their bread and butter. This is their identity as an offense. I see potential for identity. Like, it's just a shame that Raiola's had kind of a 3-4 game stretch of just not hitting those passes that should be easy dink and dunks. Like there was 2 passes that would have been in the end zone. One resulted in a score anyway, but like, I understand, like, he's a freshman. He's got to get over this hump, and he will. I think he will. He was a 5-star quarterback, but he's got the tangibles, he can do it.
Yeah.
It just kind of stinks. It just looks chaotic. I could dog on Satterfield all night long, but the reality of it is that the game plan, when it came time to make play calls, they were not the right play calls. And I can say that with confidence as a non-X's and O's armchair coach. You got to play to your team's weaknesses, and you got to know what your guys can and cannot do, and you got to play to that, even if it means being predictable. Make them stop you. Dylan Raiola missed his wide open receivers, and it was a 50-50 pass to run. I think there was one.
And the production was very similar: 150 yards passing to 120 yards rushing. So the production was similar. Wasn't very efficient.
I'm glad that they decided to run the ball a lot more often. I want to say it was like 33 run attempts. Let's see. Yep, 33 rushing attempts, but only 3.7 yards average, even though we had that one long run by Dylan Raiola, 38 yards. So that means that average was probably under 3 yards per carry. So there's a lot left.
Could have actually, if you don't figure in sack yardage, it would actually be higher. I think they average a little over 4 yards a carry if you take away the sack yardage, which counts against your rushes, which still boggles my freaking mind. But
yeah, I'm saying that, like, if you get rid of that 38-yard,
the 38-yarder,
that means between our running backs, Dante Dowdell averaged 4.3, Emmett Johnson 3.8, and then obviously Jalen Lloyd and Heinrich Harburg. We're not even going to add them to the equation, but it just seems disjointed and chaotic, and there's still no real true identity with their offense. There's nothing at this point that we can point to and go, yeah, they've kind of got that aspect figured out. And I think that is a direct reflection of not our head coach, our offensive coordinator, and our coordinators alike, all of them across the board. Something isn't gelling. Something isn't going right here. And I have my theories and I have my reasons for thinking it, but I don't want to speculate too much on those things right now.
Sure. I hear you. I've got just a couple of slides pointing out a few things that went on the offensive side. Number one, there we go. Those are the 8 screen/swing passes for 7 total yards. +6 on the first one, -1, -1, -2, -1, +10, -3, -1. So how many of those were checkdowns or checks at the line for Dylan? I don't know. I asked Coach. He said he wasn't sure. He couldn't tell by watching the game whether Dylan checked into any of those. So we'll just assume they're all called, and Dylan ran what was called, and he did run some cover for Coach Satterfield today, as well as any good player would do. They're never going to throw their own coordinator under the bus, but he said that, Coach doesn't have to run out on the field and execute. We do. So if he calls it, we should be able to run it. And I get it. That's perfectly acceptable response. It's just hard for us to stomach watching what we watch from time to time. Mike Schaefer, who's not one to mince words, said if you keep running wide receiver screens behind someone who can't block and has shown he can't block, that's no longer on the player. I think he's referring directly to Jamal Banks. That is a startling lack of comprehension and understanding of your own team, and to do it repeatedly is self-sabotage, which I thought was a very insightful comment, and one that I completely agree with, because seemed like every time we were running that screen, 5 or 6 of those 8 screens were number 4 was blowing another block, and he was getting shoestring tackled. So, and then of course, the Satterfield playbook. I thought.
Yeah, for those who are listening, it's the superhero
Hero
looking
meme.
at two red buttons, and both the red buttons are labeled screen. What am I gonna do?
What am I gonna choose?
Left field screen or right side field screen?
And then probably the most insightful and best comment I heard about the offense was this one from our own Coach BA. And he said this: when I load up College Football 25 on my PlayStation tonight, I'm going to attempt to win an online game using Nebraska. And the only plays I'm allowed to run are swing passes and screens. I'll call it the Satterfield Challenge and see how long it takes to win one.
That's a good challenge.
I thought that was really funny. So thanks for that, BA, and thanks for letting me use it. Well, you didn't know I used it. I was going to use it anyway. But
surprise.
Speaking of Coach BA, we've got his weekly Coach BA breakdown. This is the offensive play that he gave us to take a look at. This is the one where it was a good blitz pickup by the running back. Offensive line blocked well, was man coverage is what he said, and there blocked well, but Banks, of course, whiffed on one, but Dillon ended up making that one long run. So that's how this is how he breaks that play down. Sorry, I think I kind of stole some of your thunder there, Coach.
Hey, this offensive play right here is honestly, in my mind, pretty dang good with a little bit of nitpicking in it, okay? But I want to point out how great the offensive line played this. Sometimes the offensive line gets a little bit of flack, I guess, for how they've played. I want to say they picked up this, like, right at the snap blitz. Like, these two walk up, and then you got this middle linebacker coming hard, right? So 5 linemen, running back. This is how you pick up pass protection right there. Like, that is, hey, as a guy who really likes offensive line play, this was really good. Everyone picks up their man one-on-one. The inside guy coming, running back picks it up beautifully. So this gives Dillon a running lane. I know he kind of whiffed on that, but like that's all you got to do. You're trying to slow that up. Give us a running lane. I got to say, I was impressed by this from Dillon. The reason this opened up is because how man-heavy that they were. Very man-heavy with some deep zones, and that's why we had some of these running lanes, right? So great pickup by the offensive line. Great eyes by Dillon stepping up and then realizing, oh, I got the first down, and I got more. Nayor, no block, no rock. Shout out to that podcast, but hey, that's what it's all about. As a former wide receiver tight end coach, I'm all about wide receiver blocking, skill position blocking. My only frustration with this play, Jamal Banks. All I'm saying is, dog, you make that block and Dillon Rhule scores. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe that's nitpicky, I guess. But if I'm Garrett McGuire today, I'm pointing this out. Like, hey, this was a great play. But, dude, you got to make that block. And I know a lot of people have kind of ragged on Jamal Banks for his perimeter blocking this year. So I don't want to pile on. But, hey, look at Dillon switching the ball. Look at that. Look at that. Has the ball in the wrong hand. You never want to have that ball towards the defender because then it's easier for them to punch it out, hit it with the helmet. Stiff arm, fight for extra yards. Dillon's got that dog in him. So I'll play it for you guys full speed. I was very happy with this play. I actually think this is one of my favorite plays of the game just because of how well the offensive line picked it up. But, man, Jamal Banks, we could have scored a tutty. How crazy would that have been? But, hey, it is what it is. Tough block. I get it. Dog.
Yeah. Dillon Rhule is sneaky faster than I think. You know, he doesn't look like he's moving very fast, but he covers a lot of dang ground every stride. So, yeah, I think Coach was right. I wouldn't have even thought about it until you pointed it out that if Jamal holds that block, there's a good chance Dillon gets in. Maybe he's be able to cut back behind him and get into the end zone. Never know, though, but interesting. Thanks, Coach. We really appreciate all that you do. Make sure you guys are following the BA Coaches Show on YouTube, as well as on all the socials. And 1620 The Zone every Monday at 8 a.m. He's on with Sharp and Hanley. So does a lot of good stuff there. I need to get it back up to my right. There I am. We're on to the defensive reaction now. Why don't you go ahead and lead off? Give your thoughts on the defense.
Yeah, I think that the defense bounced back from Indiana. I'm speaking of that. We kind of alluded to it earlier, and I did like your. I don't remember who pointed it out or who you said pointed it out, but yeah, it's kind of an inverse where we expected it to be close with Indiana and we expected to get boat raced by Ohio State, and turned out it was the exact opposite. And you're correct. I think in years past with let's say a Riley team where, you name it, after getting boat raced like that by Indiana, I think any team would have just quit. Especially knowing that they're having to play, the number 4 team in the country, and Ohio State, where we aren't necessarily prone to competing with them very well in recent years. So the fact that they competed at such a high level, I'm super proud of them. They're good defense. They're good defense. They just need to play to their strengths. And it seemed like, from what I could tell, they had Will Howard basically on lockdown. Like, he didn't really have many options to choose from, and he was getting flustered. Our defense was doing a really good job getting into that backfield and putting pressure on him. So I'm proud of them. We only allowed a few explosive plays. That's the big key. Ohio State lives and dies by the explosive plays. They're a high caliber team. They have tons and tons of talent, so they can blow you up. And they just weren't able to do it that often. I think it was like 3, 4, or all their scores were on explosive plays, or the result there.
Yeah, their third touchdown was like a 9-yard touchdown pass, but I think there was an explosive play right before it. I haven't had a chance to watch the game back, but before that, the other two were at least 35, 40 yards each.
The fact that we were able to keep Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins to about 25, 30 yards per person is insane. Is so good. Like, that was when you look at this offense, this Ohio State offense on paper, like we had no, I don't want to say that, that's discrediting our defense, but we didn't have the perception that we were going to keep Jeremiah Smith under 100 yards and keep the entire rushing attack from Ohio State under 100 yards. Like, that was not, I would have not seen that coming. But then the one blemish that I had to point out, well, it's a blemish on our offense, but we got a huge turnover. Malcolm Hartzog almost took it to the house, and we weren't able to capitalize on it, unfortunately. But that could have been a huge factor in the results of the game if we would have been able to capitalize on it. But I'm extremely proud of the way that they played. I couldn't have asked for them to do. If I were selfish, I could ask them to do even better. But all things considered, really well played game on our defense.
Yeah, when you consider the missed block by Banks on the DR run, very good chance he could have scored on that play, number one. The 2 missed passes where he could have hit 2 guys who were open, that's 2 more touchdowns we could have had. And then if Hartzog sticks that thing in the end zone, I mean, there's 28 points we literally left out there on the field on plays that could have scored very easily. We're like Ty Robinson said, I think at the press conference he did, I think on Monday or something, he said, this was the Nebraska team that we knew we were. This is who we were supposed to be. Is that we're this far. We're just so close. And once we get there, just stick with us. Once we get there, it's just going to get better and better. So we'll see. But not seeing that huge turnover turn into points was hard. That was really hard. We had every chance on the 7-yard line. We just couldn't do it. Wasn't that the drive where we went for it on 4th down and we didn't? They stopped us. Yes, and that was one of those other questionable spotting issues where they spotted it like the 2.5 and it was actually at the 1.
Yep.
That Barney got to. So
that was the one that Dowdell
tried to jump over.
And that it worked second time, but not Not that time.
Not from 2.5 yards out. No. My thoughts on defense was I had just three elite stats that I saw. The run defense was elite, 64 yards total and 31 carries, which was 30% of what Ohio State usually puts out in the running. Third down was elite. They were 1 for 10. The fact that they got to 10 third downs means, we had a lot of 237 of their 281 yards of total offense, Scott, was all on first down. So those two are bigger pass plays that scored for touchdowns were on first down. So a lot of their yards were got on first down. But man, second, third, and fourth, this defense was elite. And then scoring defense, of course, was elite. They held them to half their normal scoring points at 21 points a game instead of 47. So we didn't lay down. And I wonder, somebody said something on a show. I can't remember if it was, I think they were kind of expecting us to eventually lay down, that once they went up 14-7 or 14-3 or whatever it was, that we just go, oh, there's no hope. So they thought we'd just kind of give up. We never did. So that was a credit to a change in culture, a change in mentality. There's a lot of guys in this locker room that are used to losing, and they're kind of seeing the light as to way to get to the point of playing winning football. So it was enjoyable for that sake. So let's see here. Moving on to the next slide. We've got a few defensive stats here I wanted to throw up there. Ohio State's leading rusher was Judkins with 29 yards, ran for 64 at 2.24 yards per attempt. They had the 19th best rushing attack average at over 200 yards per game and 5.9 yards per carry going into the game. Maybe a little bye week blues, maybe a whole lot of defensive front that wasn't going to be pushed around. I think I saw an awful lot of Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmacher messing with people up front and not getting pushed back very much. The other one was the Huskers defense held Ohio State to a season low of 64 rushing yards, 285 total yards, and 21 total points. Buckeyes' previous lows had been 141 rushing yards at Oregon, 412 total yards versus Iowa, and 31 points at Oregon. So good indicators that the direction that the defense took on Saturday is certainly the direction they're going to keep heading, or that they want to keep heading. That's going to be the hardest offense they play the rest of the year. None of these other offenses I see coming up, maybe USC's got a little bit to say, but that's on the road. Big deal. We just went to Columbus where we shouldn't have done what we did, and we did it. So USC doesn't scare me quite as much. Any other thoughts on any of those slides, Scott, or is we want to move on to the next BA breakdown?
Nope, we can move on. Just good job, defense. Good job.
Yep, good job.
You guys
Excellent.
Humbled me a little bit.
Yeah, and then the defensive play. Oh, Lord, Coach, I was going to talk about which one it was, and I can't remember which one it is now. I think it's it's a bad one. It's the one where Gifford gets beat for a touchdown, but I love his breakdown because it tells you exactly why, and it becomes so obvious, something that laymen like me would not notice. But there was a really key moment in that play that caused him to break so open for a touchdown.
This defensive play right here, I probably could have picked a highlight because we did actually play really well on defense, but I decided to pick a little bit of a low light just to showcase for the audience here on Generation Red how gosh darn important these little things are, how these little steps are, and how they can turn into a huge thing, if that makes any sense. So that's the reason I'm picking a bad play for us, is just to show how important the little things are. This play design by Ohio State, I really liked. They got this zone blocking pass scheme, kind of make it look like zone run because they're going play action. Here's what I want to show you, okay? One, the fact that Isaac Gifford is going to be playing a deep zone here and is still flat-footed, not a good sign against someone as speedy as all of Ohio State's receivers, let's be real, okay? I'll tell you, here's why this play happens the way it does. Look at the way he turns. He just turned the wrong way. I mean, he probably might still give up a big play because he's still flat-footed, but if he just runs with him, near hip, tries to go, I get it. But Isaac Gifford, we say a lot of great things about Isaac Gifford. I don't think his super speed is one of them, right? But literally, he makes the wrong turn, and look at that gap. I mean, look, that's huge. In major college football, that is about as open as you're ever going to see a receiver. Just completely wide open there. It's just the little things. Again, like, I probably could have picked a better play, but I want to show you that, like, when you're breaking these things down, just one little thing flipped, just the way he flipped, it's gone. As soon as he flipped his hips, as soon as he flips his hips that way, Will Howard saw this is going to be a wide open touchdown. Literally, he throws it right away. Look at the huge separation. Beside that, I think we actually covered a lot of the other routes pretty well. But I think he didn't bite on the play action, but his eyes being back here, he should have been backpedaling more and then been ready to take whichever guy goes deep, but he wasn't. And big, long touchdown, so I'll play it in full speed. I know that wasn't the greatest play to break down, but I just want to show you guys that these little tiny things make the biggest difference in major college football. It's what makes a really good defense into a great defense, is not getting beat like that off play action.
Yep, absolutely. That play reminds me, I was thinking as he was breaking it down just now, I was like, what does this play remind me of? It reminds me of the Indiana game 2 years ago. Mickey was coaching. It was after Frost was fired. It was Mickey's first win when Trey Palmer just hits a go route and Casey Thompson hits his back foot and just fires the ball down. Well, what happened when I went back and rewatched the game was I finally was able to see, well, why did he get so open? Well, the DB turned out away from him instead of turning his hips to go follow alongside his hips. And that's why Trey Palmer got so open. That, and he was otherworldly fast as well. So, but yeah, you turn the wrong way. I mean, all Will Howard had to do was hit his back foot and put the ball up because it was going to be a touchdown. So good breakdown, BA. Thank you so much for all that. And again, 1620 The Zone, 8 a.m. every Monday. He's on there, as well as follow him at the BA Coaches Show and all the socials and YouTube. Always putting out good stuff. Let's see. Did I have anything else on? No. Yeah, we do. We have some main takeaways, don't we, from the game? Mine's simple. If we keep this level of defense and the offense gets more efficient, Nebraska should win 2 more games and could win all 4 of what's left on their schedule. There's not a game on their schedule that they're going to lose unless they lose it. I don't think there's a team out there on their schedule that has them overmatched by any way, shape, or form. So that's my main takeaway.
Yep. And I think this is going to kind of show me when we're going into the offseason, I think that these last 4 games are really going to set the tone for the direction that this program is going. I would love to see them win 2 more games, at least. Right now, we're only favored to beat UCLA. Obviously, Vegas hasn't come out and give exact numbers, but the FPI is.
It opened at 9.5. We were favored by.
Oh, I just mean for the rest of the season.
For the rest of the season, the FPI. Yeah.
Yeah, FPI for the rest of the season has Nebraska favored at UCLA, and that's it. So I'd like to see them exceed those expectations from FPI. And you're right. If this defense and even our offense, if we play the same way we did, but Dylan is able to drop a few of those in the breadbasket, I think that makes a huge difference in our total score, total points scored.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That it's going to be a fun 4 games, hopefully. But my main takeaway is it's the same old story. Unfortunately, offense was wildly inconsistent, like we've seen them all year, and the defense bailed them out, and we just couldn't capitalize.
Yeah.
The one thing that I was going to put in my main takeaway, but I figured it would just add too many words. But the only thing that wasn't the same old story is John Hull.
Yeah, buddy.
John Hull, 3 for 3. Knocked what did it end up being? Was it 56 or was it 54?
It was 54, which, since you mentioned him, he is our game MVP. John Hull, 3 field goals, 39, 47, and 54 yards on the 54-yard field goal, tied Brett Maher, his coach, for the longest in a road game situation. So congrats to John Hull.
Yeah, I wonder if that hiring of
couldn't have
Maher
hurt.
maybe helped a little bit with just getting everything squared away in between the years. But yeah, it's same old story. Unfortunately, I kind of, to go off of what your point was, what are we going to do about it? We've got a quarterback who can drop dimes. Let's see him do it a little bit more often. Right now, his touchdown to interception ratio is not quite what I would hope. Luckily, half of those turnovers haven't really affected the game all that much. I hate to say that. Like, of course, interceptions make a huge difference, but there's only like 4 or 5 of them that I can point to and go, yeah, there's a direct disparity from that turnover to them scoring. I would like to see him do better. But yeah, our defense needs to continue doing what they're doing. It's just, dude, it's so hard to talk about these things because the team has just been so weird this year. Like,
I know.
One game, the defense looks elite. The next game, they look mid. In some games, they look absolutely atrocious. And then our offense is just whatever they're doing. Who knows? And then now John Hull doing what he's doing, at least in that game, it's really hard to pontificate because what do we know? What do we even know about this team? There's really nothing you can point to that you can say, yep, that's something we can rely on. So I'll be curious to see at the end of this season, like, what are my overall thoughts of the team? Because if I could, like, extrapolate, I have a feeling I'm probably still going to have that same feeling at the end of the season where I'm like, what the hell happened?
What the hell was it that we just saw? Yeah.
What just happened?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Here's the way I would put it. And that's, what have we been watching for a while now? I thought maybe at the beginning of the year, we saw what happened with Colorado. And then we were like, okay, maybe this caterpillar is turning into a butterfly. It's finally getting ready to come out of its cocoon that it's been in for so long. It's going to spread its wings. It's going to take off and fly. Yep. And then Northern Illinois or Northern Iowa happened. And we went, oh, wait. And then Illinois shows up and we're like, oh, crap. And then we kind of figure sort of some of the second half thing out at Purdue after not scoring anything in the first half. That should have been an indicator that things might get ugly fairly quickly. And then Rutgers was just, next thing you know, you're sitting there going, oh, you're 6 games into the year. And 3 of those games, you didn't score a point in the second half. What's going on? And then you go play number 4 and you score more points in the second half than you did in the first. It's like, what the hell am I supposed to think? I don't know what I'm supposed to think here. Maybe this is just that struggle, that thing that you do when you're in the cocoon as the caterpillar and you're trying to make the change. You're trying to change who you are. There's a struggle and it's a long one. Maybe that's where we're at. Maybe that's where this program is at, that at times that offense pops out of that cocoon and goes, here's what we're going to be. And then it goes back in. Says not quite done yet, but the defense, if there's anything that's going to get us there and help move that cocoon closer to the butterfly, I think it's affected the defense, which is like the weirdest analogy you could use to talk about this. But I thought, what the heck? It seemed to make sense to me.
I think it makes sense. We are in our metamorphosis stage.
Stage. Yes.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and that next stage of the metamorphosis comes this Saturday, November 2nd, with a 60% chance of rain. Happy day. Moonbot needs a few brisket burritos. Well, I can't blame you there, dude. Those are awfully good. Those are awfully good. Oh, so there we go. UCLA preview time. Let's their record does not indicate how tough they've played. The numbers that we're going to take a look at here in a minute of the difference between the two teams is not indicated. I mean, they've crisscrossed the country. Those guys, I think, have flown more miles than any of the other teams out on the West Coast. So they've really had it rough. Welcome to the Big Ten. So let's just take a look at the numbers. And I didn't even put their record down. I should have. They're like, what,
4-5.
2-5. Okay. Well, they only beat us in one category. If you're listening to this on the podcast and you want to kind of take a look at these numbers a little closer, at about 54 and a half minutes into our podcast on our YouTube channel, you can go fast forward to that, and there's where the numbers are. But They outpass us 238 yards per game to our 232. So there's not much difference. But we run the ball a little bit better. They're dead last and their head coach is a former running back for UCLA. So go figure. But they're dead last in the Big Ten in rushing at 65 yards a game. Nebraska is 12th at 24 points per game. They are 18th at 17 points per game. Defense, Nebraska beats them in every category, but not by a lot. Not by a lot. They're both ranked fairly close to the same, especially where rushing defense is concerned. So running the ball on Saturday is probably not going to be what wins the game as much as we'd like to think we need to. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to, but if it's raining, we're going to have to. So it's kind of one of those darned if we do, darned if we don't kind of situations. So, but just to give everybody an idea, Nebraska gives up 204 yards passing per game, which is 9th in the conference, 44th in the country. They're giving up 269 yards per game, which is 17th in the conference and 119th in the country. So that's where I think the yards are going to be. I think that's where Naor and Banks could finally, maybe, perhaps have a game where they stand out. Fedoni should be a good over the middle next week. So turnover margin's the big one. They're -7 in turnovers, so they give up the ball. Nebraska is still in the positive because they finished even last week with Ohio State, so they're still +2 in turnover margin. So that gives you the numbers. Looking at those numbers, Scott, and looking at their record, how crazy, you look at the difference in turnover margin. Nebraska's are 9 turnovers better than they are. Maybe that's a pretty good indicator that they're 2-5. I don't know how many points they've given up off a turnover. I didn't really look that deeply, but I don't know. Seems like we'd be probably about the similar record if we were -7 in turnovers the way our team played last year anyway.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing that stands out to me is the turnover margin. And then just looking at those offensive numbers, they seem to be pretty anemic, but then so are we,
Yeah.
But the one thing that is nice to see is that their best stat on defense is rushing. We kind of suck at rushing. That's fine. But they've played, some teams that have just kind of run the score up on them. Well, not really run the score up on them, but they've played some teams that don't necessarily need a run on them all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know how to interpret this UCLA team. They're strange. I mean, this is kind of what we expected them to be. I expected them to be like 3-4 going into this game. I didn't expect, it was kind of a coin toss between Indiana and Minnesota. I kind of figured they would win one of those just for some parity, but they ended up losing both of those.
Yeah.
Same thing with Rutgers. You could make that's more of a coin flip than Indiana's more of a coin flip than Rutgers, but they ended up beating Rutgers, and Indiana is really hot this year. So it is what it is. This year's been a strange year. But yeah, I think if we can put together a better passing attack, and I don't even know, our running back room just is what it is. I would love to see them be more proficient. But I just don't know if it's going to happen. If there's any stat line that I could point at and be like, yeah, Nebraska could blow that up, honestly, it would be the rushing stats. That they're 13th in the country, but I just think that our rushing attack could be better. There just needs to be a little bit more continuity on our offense, and there needs to be a little bit more wise decision making and better vision from our running backs. And then if they could lather up Dylan Rhule, like we mentioned earlier, he's not what would it be? He doesn't
not
have
unfast.
He doesn't have very good acceleration, but once he gets into his last gear, he can get up and go. So it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell, especially with my more pessimistic lens on things. Nebraska's better in almost every single category but passing. But I'm just not ready to buy into the fact that this is just going to be a
walkover.
Yeah.
Me neither. This is going to be that struggle bus kind of game. And part of the struggle is for us as a fans to ask ourselves a question that Mitch Sherman, I think, so very well said on Twitter. I believe it was Monday morning or Sunday night. I'm not sure. I don't remember when I first saw this, but I just thought I'd throw this up here before we give our score predictions. It's a good question. He says, do you trust Nebraska? That's the question after the real team, according to Ty Robinson, showed up and came within one missed opportunity, one more defensive stop against Ohio State from a monumental upset. It's going to happen, the Huskers say. And if you trust them, the reason exists to believe that Nebraska can win any or all of its remaining 4 games. So the question is, do we trust Nebraska to be that team in these next 4 games? So with that as our lens, do we trust Nebraska to win on Saturday? What do you think? What's your score prediction?
No, I don't trust Nebraska. They haven't done anything to earn my trust until I see. I think I need to see 3 games in a row where we do something that would be considered an identity and we put it together every single time. At this point, our defense has been inconsistent throughout the season. Our offense has remained inconsistent throughout the whole season. Now we could have just said our special teams was consistently bad, but with John Hull nailing 3 field goals, it's like, well, that just makes them inconsistent now. So there's no trust in inconsistency.
Right.
Expectations are planned resentments, as they say, with a good relationship.
Yep.
And, when it comes to this team, my expectation is for them to be inconsistent. And so, yeah, I'm going to resent them for it. And so for now, I'm going to be resentful. Okay, folks, I'm going to have a bad relationship mindset with Nebraska. I need them to prove to me that they can be more consistent. They can earn my trust, because at this point, I don't have any trust in them. It's all talk at this point. It's just all bravado. And so I want them to just kick the living crap out of UCLA, just knock their teeth in. I would love nothing more than that. But right now, I can't get on board with that. I still think Nebraska wins. I just think we just still see the same old. We just see what we've already seen all year. There's going to be inconsistencies on our offense. Our defense is just going to get blown up a few times, or they're going to look like Coach BA pointed out, they're going to look like they're not playing fundamental football, and it's going to result in less than ideal score. But I think Nebraska still wins, but it's going to be something like a 24-17 type of game. I'll take it. I'll take it. But yeah, at this point, this is what our team is. They're inconsistent, and they're still trying to figure themselves out. And so 24-17 Nebraska.
All righty. So shades of national championships down in Miami type of a score. So I like it. Inconsistency. Do I trust Nebraska? That's the question I've been asking myself since I saw that tweet from Mitch Sherman, and I'll answer it like this. I trust that what we saw on Saturday is the team that Nebraska desperately wants to be. That I trust. Do I trust that that's who they are now? Not yet. But I believe they're headed there. I also believe that Saturday will go a long way to answer whether or not they're really on that road. So like Coach BA said, he's looking for the Ohio State effort to be validated by the effort against UCLA. So the question is, does a 24-17 score, Nebraska winning by you, and a 20-13 score that I've got predicted, because I don't think we score that much, is that going to be enough to validate what happened at Ohio State? Depends on what 20-13 looks like. Does it look like an absolute defensive beatdown and the offense just kind of slugs its way through, drives the ball, wears them down, scores the last, 14 points or whatever in the second half. I don't know. It just depends on how it looks. From there, then we get to take another week off and hopefully don't fly out to USC and look sluggish and slow again like we did. Because that's really going to be the game that, for me, tells me, okay, we're moving. We're moving. If we get out to USC and we put up a fight and maybe even win that thing, hot diggity dog, we're moving in the right way. But right now, my trust is conditional. I can't say that I don't trust, but I can say that I'm trusting that they're headed there. And I'm along for the ride. Unfortunately, I can't turn my heart off. So I'm along for the ride regardless. Mm-hmm. So we'd like to know what everybody else thinks. We'd really like to know, do you guys think we're crazy? If you're listening to us on the podcast app after the fact, please send us an email at genredpod@gmail.com. Let us know what you think. We really appreciate that. Also, just to remind everybody, we do have merch now. It is live on herdatmedia.com. Just go there. You should be able to click on the merchandise link and be able to find us. Otherwise, the link is right down there in the scroll. It's also in the show notes of this audio podcast, as well as in the video description if you're watching us after the fact. So you can follow the show at GenRedPod on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can subscribe to our audio podcast at Generation Red on your favorite podcast app and listen to the audio show the day after the live stream airs. Like and subscribe. Join the conversation by interacting with us, by leaving a comment down below this video if you're watching it after the fact. Of course, genredpod.com is our website where there will be a link to our merchandise store very soon. I will get that up and live sometime tomorrow. So just as a quick reminder, Scott, our predictions when we did our reality versus Rhule, we're not far off from what we predicted then. In fact, you're predicting the score to be a little bit better for Nebraska and even better for for you at UCLA. Based on what you've seen this year, that checks out. And I've got our score just a little bit worse. So, and that checks out with me based on what I've seen as well. I think this team's got 20 points in it. And I think that defense is good enough to hold them to 13, especially since they've scored 17 a game this year. So, And they give up 29 a game. So 20 is definitely doable, even with an inconsistent offense. So there you go. That's it, folks. We really appreciate you watching. We appreciate you listening. And he's Scott. I'm Ken. Together we are Generation Red, and we are here to chronicle Nebraska's hopeful return to college football greatness, one podcast at a time, because there's no place like Nebraska.
And Iowa's corn sucks more than one score losses.
Yep. We'll see you next week. Go Big Red.
Go Big Red.